relentlessly. I really give due to them. They work from day one up until like tomorrow. And as a team, they've made sure that in 2 weeks' time, we find a venue, we get the infrastructure, we put in the resources, and then, of course, the question that was asked, what was the cost of all of this? I'll tell you why I'm saying that. Over time, in the 5 years that at least I've been here, we've reduced the cost of solar in many ways. We've reduced our normal branding, which we now make it generic. We cut out the dinner that we had to do. But obviously, this time, having planned just under 200,000 rands in our budget, we've had to increase that. For this day in particular, the estimates, and these are just estimates, we've not spent, it's estimates until we pay out people. It's just under 2 million for today, which is about 1.935 million, 1.9 million 300. So we've had to put that aside. So that's what we're going to be spending at least for this day. But we also are going to be carrying out the debates. The president is going to respond. So there's also cost for that. So generally for the next 5 days, we're looking at a budget of just under 4 million. But like I said, it's a budget. Normally, we get all the payments done, then we compile this expenditure, then we report to the Joint Standing Committee, which is our portfolio committee, then we report to the Executive Authority. But like I say, there's been quite a nice decline on the cost of solar over 5 years. Thank you.
Having answered to that, I just want to link back on your response regarding the cost and also the budget. We know that just in front of the City Hall, Cape Town, especially the Grand Parade, hosts a lot of traders, hosts a lot of small business people. What Parliament has done to put arrangements in place to ensure that those communities of Cape Town, the trade in the Grand Parade Center, are not going to lose any income or livelihood because of the State of the Nation address or the program of Parliament?
Yeah, that's been quite a challenge, but the city has got a very good relationship with their stakeholder, and that's where we started. If the Grand Parade has to be defined as a space that we're going to use as part of solar, there's had to be meetings, which I know for a fact that the city had meetings for the stakeholders. Indeed, for the 10th, like tomorrow, they will not be trading, at least from the Grand Parade, and the city have actually committed to finding them other places to do that. And that's the reason why we thought, at least for today, they'll have to be relocated to a place. Indeed, there will be a lot of unhappiness, and I must forthrightly say, we have actually said we apologize and we understand and we empathize for any other person who loses an income for a day, because it's a lot for a lot of families there. However, there's been quite a lot of negotiations, cordial relationships. Yes, there will be complaints. Yes, some must be angry. Yes, some must be irritated. However, as we were doing that and working with the city, who have really gotten a good relationship with most of the traders, doesn't necessarily mean some will not be unhappy. They will be, because they lose out a lot of income. However, what we've done is make sure that at least after today, part of the space they will be allowed to trade, but they have been relocated to other places. I must say, some actually may not necessarily find it quite conducive to be in other places, because this is their popular space to trade.
Having said that as well, Secretary, when we look at the issue of trade and we look back at the history of our country, especially when we roll back to July 2021, it was the month where South Africa again experienced one of the first things under the democracy, where parts of the country were gutted with fire, businesses were destroyed, the public institutions were destroyed. And again, we open 2022 with the sad news of having the National Assembly also being gutted with fire. So with all of this happening, because it compromises security as well, so how has Parliament ensured that the city of Cape Town is a safe place to host the State of the Nation address?
I understand as a citizen first, and the issue of security and some of the things that are happening in the country are unfortunate, and some funds have been fought for this democracy. For that, it is important that we support. It is important that we protect our constitutional democracy. It is important that over time, we as citizens of the country know that we have no other country to go to, and we have a constitutional democracy. And in fact, we must use the levers of the constitution to make sure that our unhappiness, our lives are changed by those who are supposed to assist and those who are supposed to deliver the services that communities of this country actually would like to see and make life better. It is unfortunate. It is sad that when you look as a citizen, there's a sense that there's a lot of deterioration in terms of law enforcement. But I must say that the law enforcement agencies have done the best they can in the worst of circumstances. Yes, of course, the worst was the fire on Parliament, which is quite an unfortunate thing, but that is an area that the law enforcement agencies are hard at work to establish the source thereof.
Just before I let you go, Acting Secretary, is the State of the Nation address, does this mean the work of Parliament continues or it's going to be halted up until the issue of the National Assembly is resolved?
No, ma'am. And remember that the State of the Nation addresses, people call it an opening of Parliament. It is incorrect. Already from the time the members come back from recess, there's committee work. There's already been oversight by various portfolio committees throughout the country, continuing the work. The second week of January, a lot of committees start working. So this is just where we get the address. And in fact, the work of Parliament would have continued. And with the National Assembly, the work of Parliament continues. Hence, we've had our hybrid meetings. We've had, because for the 2 years we've been under the coronavirus, under the COVID, our members have been working. We have a well-oiled hybrid system. We've got virtual meeting platforms where members have been working quite earnestly on the programs that they have to work on. And I myself have appeared 3 times in front of the portfolio committee that I report to, meaning that my committee has been working. So members of Parliament have been hard at work, irrespective of the fire. Yes, we are going to be looking at when the National Assembly has to do a plenary. I must tell you now, we are converting Good Hope Center, the Good Hope House, into a hybrid now. And hopefully, by the time we do the budget speech, some members of the National Assembly will be able to go into the Good Hope and use it as a hybrid. And also, there's a lot of, bad things, some things do come up. COVID made us accelerate our ICT infrastructure. So we're building a lot of other committee rooms on the precinct that could be a hybrid, because we know that some members who have got comorbidities may not necessarily be coming onto the precinct for a while. So we have to move with the times. And this is how we're going to invest part of our budget into. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. That is a Acting Secretary to Parliament, Ms. Debbie Kyawa. On her words, she has highlighted that indeed Parliament is ready to host the State of the Nation address, because of the State of the Nation address is also delivered under particular rules. So we are going to have a look at the clip that actually informs us on the rules and the orders that speak to the hosting of the State of the Nation address and other sittings of Parliament.
Following up on our commitments to the people, making your future work better. Parliament TV, channel 408 on DSTV.
The Parliament of the Republic of South Africa serves as the voice of the South African people, and its members are elected to represent the citizens of the country. Parliament consists of 2 houses called the National Assembly and National Council of Provinces. Each has its own distinct role and functions as set out in the Constitution. However, there are times when the 2 houses act together to conduct what is called joint business. National Assembly is responsible for choosing the president, passing laws, and providing a forum where the representatives of the people can publicly debate issues. National Council of Provinces is also involved in the lawmaking processes and provides a forum for debate on issues affecting the provinces. Another important power given to Parliament by the Constitution is the authority to make its own rules and orders and to direct its own internal proceedings. Each house, therefore, has a set of rules and orders according to which it operates, while Parliament also has joint rules that directs joint business.
The rules make sure that, or are there to ensure that the business of Parliament takes place in the manner that allows members to exercise their freedom of speech, that allows members to use the language that is acceptable during the debate. They are there to ensure that the presiding officers are able to control and manage the proceedings of the House. When you're talking about Parliament, you're talking about the two houses, you're talking about the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces. I am the secretary to the National Council of Provinces. The National Council of Provinces has got its own rules. The National Assembly has got its own rules. And we also do have what we refer to as the joint rules. The joint rules would then govern the sittings of the National Assembly together with the National Council of Provinces. So if the two houses are sitting together, we use the joint rules, and that is what we call the rules of Parliament.
So for instance, when the president appears in Parliament to deliver the nation address in a joint sitting where these two houses come together, the rules that are applicable in that instance would be the joint rules of Parliament. These rules are sanctioned by the Constitution. In terms of Section 57 of the Constitution, the National Assembly has the power to determine its own procedures, its own internal arrangements, and there is a similar section applicable to the NCOP as well. The rules are created by the members. The rules are created by Parliament itself.
Sometimes it's not everything that is written in the rules. Sometimes there are processes, there are procedures which have been there for time immemorial, which have been accepted within the parliamentary practice. Although not written in the rules, but members do know and understand that they have to comply with those parliamentary practices and procedures. We refer to those as the conventions.
And those are conventions that members respect, that members honor, and that members generally understand that are applicable to Parliament. For instance, the issue of where a member comes into a meeting of a house, a member bows, for a while was never provided for in the rules. Of course, in some rules it is provided for, in other rules it's not provided for. The rules recognize these conventions. The rules recognize these practices so that at least they carry a status in terms of the rules. The rules are applicable to members of Parliament, all members of Parliament, all structures of Parliament.
The same applies to the Deputy President. The Deputy President is a member of the National Assembly. The Deputy President comes to the National Council of Provinces to take questions. He is not a member of the National Council of Provinces, but when he is in the National Council of Provinces, the rules apply to him. Once elected, the President ceases to be a member of the National Assembly. If the President is in the National Assembly, those rules would be applicable to the President. If the President is in the National Council of Provinces, the rules will also be applicable to the President.
And that is why the rules have to be specific about that matter, understanding that the President is not a member of Parliament, but the President is accountable to Parliament. The President is elected by Parliament, may be removed by Parliament, either through what is commonly called impeachment process. But our Constitution refers to it as removal of President in terms of Section 89, or a motion of no confidence. So he's accountable to Parliament and is accountable to Parliament. But also the President appears in Parliament to answer questions. The rules are enforced by the presiding officers in the main.
When we have a sitting, we have an officer who takes charge of the House. We have the chairperson in the National Council of Provinces. We have the deputy chairperson. Then we have two other presiding officers who assist the chairperson and the deputy chairperson in carrying out their responsibilities. We refer to those as the House chairpersons.
But remember, these rules do not only apply in an assembly meeting or council meeting, they also apply in committees of these houses. And therefore, the chairperson of the committee would have the power and the authority to enforce these rules.
The rules provide that a ruling from the presiding officer is final. So in other words, if there's a point of order in the House, if a member is not happy about being referred to as a fool, for instance, the example that I gave, that member will object, and the presiding officer will have to make a ruling and rule whether that is unparliamentary language or is not unparliamentary language. In the event that the presiding officer arrives at the conclusion that that constitutes a parliamentary language, that member who referred to another member as a fool would be required to withdraw reference to a member as a fool. So sometimes it's not all the time that members are happy with the rulings of the presiding officers, but the ruling of the presiding officer is final. In a rare occasion, if a member is not happy with the ruling of the presiding officer, that member would then thereafter approach the presiding officer to voice out his or her unhappiness. But in the main, the finding or the ruling by the presiding officer is final.
Ideally, that's where the matter should end, where the structures created by the Parliament, as I indicated earlier on, the Constitution has given Parliament the power to regulate its own business. So ideally, all those things should be finalized at that point. But we do know that previously there would have been instances where members would still feel not satisfied with what had been done already and would seek recourse, for instance, in the courts. But ideally, that should be the very, very, very last resort, because Parliament has got structures that have been set up to deal with these issues. If it's a matter of ethics, it can go to the Ethics Committee. If it's a matter of contempt of Parliament, it's a matter that can go to the Powers and Privileges Committee, and so that members can exhaust the internal structures and mechanisms within Parliament before they opt for external mechanisms. When that decision is then taken, you then have the rules committees that would be seized with the matter. In the ordinary course of events, you would then have the rules committee refer that matter to its subcommittee. There will be a subcommittee on the review of rules. Both houses have got those structures. And the subcommittee will delve deep into the issue. And these structures, as is the case with all structures of Parliament, they are multi-party.
The rules are dynamic, so they change all the time. When the circumstances do change, the rules must be there to accommodate the business of the House. For instance, the classical example would be currently we are not operating physically like we used to operate, where all members would be in the precincts. We now have virtual sittings, we have hybrid sittings. Virtual sittings, fully virtual sittings would be in instances where all members connect to a virtual house. So all members will be situated in their own provinces, but they come together in a virtual house, they connect from wherever they are. We have designed the rules to deal with that situation. We also have rules that deal with hybrid sittings. Hybrid sittings would be where we have some members physically in the house and some other members virtually in the house. So the rules should be able to accommodate that situation. If the rules were not dynamic, if it was not possible to review the rules, if it was not possible to change the rules, then we will be stuck in this situation. We'll be waiting for COVID to end so that all members could come to the precinct so that we can continue the business of the house. So the rules are dynamic. They can be amended at any time to accommodate whatever situation may arise. The rules also provide for the presiding officers to design a rule in the event that the rules do not accommodate that particular situation or do not apply in that particular situation. So a presiding officer may fashion a rule in order to allow the House or to assist the House or to enable the House to proceed with its own business.
We had rules, but we had an eventuality that we could not foresee, which was COVID, where members could not congregate in one place at the same time, all of them as they used to. And therefore, there had to be a mechanism to navigate through this challenge, because importantly and primarily, Parliament had to go on with its business. So the question then was, how do we go on with business when members cannot be together in one place? So rules then had to be formulated. At the time this happened, members could not even come together in terms of meeting physically. So the speaker in the NA and the chairperson of the council had to invoke a rule that provides for unforeseen eventuality, even to enable that meeting of the members virtually. And these rules also affirm the current rules. They regulate things such as attendance. They regulate things such as how do you get information to the members of Parliament. They regulate things such as how the voting is done now. And they regulate all that.
As fellow South Africans, activities outside are actually continuing because the president has just arrived within the precinct of the Cape Town City Hall. This is to say to us that the president is getting ready to assess, to monitor the situation, whether everything is ready for his State of the Nation address tonight at 7 p.m. Remember, South Africans, this State of the Nation address is called by the state president by writing to the secretary, by writing to the speaker of the National Parliament, requesting that a date be set for the State of the Nation address. Remember that Parliament has moved out as well from its normal precinct, as we have been alluding throughout this recording, that Parliament was scattered by the fires. So the presence of the president is to ensure that everything is in order by the time the clock hits 7 o'clock. I am Valerie Tambuza. We are still continuing live from the City Hall to give you a feed of what is happening and what are the developments as we are progressing to the State of the Nation address. The President of South Africa being here, he is going to be accompanied as well by the presiding officers. He is going also to be accompanied as well by some of the commanders in the army. They will also be accompanied by the secretaries of parliament from the National Assembly, as well as the NCOP. So that way, everybody will explain what is in order. So as we have alluded to the fact that the president has landed. So he is arrived at the City Hall. Most of the citizens are actually getting the view of the president as he enters the City Hall. As he enters the City Hall, he will also monitor whether the area where he'll be hosting the venue is ready. Is it well prepared to host him? So, Thembinkosi, we've just received the news that actually the president is making his way to the City Hall.
Mandela Bus, exactly where he held the mic 32 years ago. Yes, he has arrived. He is here to inspect and to see that all is well for tonight. So once the president is certified, then we should be ready to proceed tonight. That is outside here, where he was standing back in 1990 on the 11th of February and holding the mic for the president.
One of the most important things as well, Thembinkosi, by the arrival of the president into this venue, remember that we are just a few hours away from the 32-year celebration for next year, or tomorrow, because it will mark 32 years after the late former president delivered his speech on the very same balcony where the president is standing today. For the young people of South Africa who were born maybe in 1994, they get now to really understand the history that stands behind this advertising, marketing of our late former president and the City Hall and the current president of South Africa. So they get really to make theory into an experience today, especially also for those people who are traders around the Grand Parade, those who can actually get a view, those who are lucky, it's something that would really stick in their minds and also become a memorable experience.
Sisi izawutsholondole inikeze nethuba loba ama-2000 akhabone le nto kudala simande sithetha ngayo kuba thina besilibalise elibalini loba ngala 11 kaFebruwari 1990 sasilapha eParade sizomamela uformer president uMr Nelson Mandela ezothetha kula first public address yakhe after he was released from the Kafesa prison. So ibilibali ebesilibalisa kasibalisela manje no president uRamaphosa, the current president, was standing there next to the former president and holding the mic for him. So it's kind of, I hope that they've managed to see when the president was standing next to the Mandela bus, but now he has just entered the City Hall for a full inspection, which I'm sure he will be going to the chamber to see, and then also maybe, so yeah.
I think also he will be continuing as well en route to where the president and the other, like the former president, maybe he would get also to have a view of all these significant rooms where he was going to be hosted, as well as where he's going to deliver the State of the Nation. But also, I think the sitting, it would be different as well this year, because we are not within the parliament precinct where they normally sit according to political party affiliation. So because the City Hall arrangement is more like an audience as opposed to how
Yes.
it's politically set in the National Assembly.
And we have the Secretary of the National Assembly and the Secretary of the National Council of Provinces, Mr. Kaso, and Advocate Pindela, who will be joining us later in studio just to break it down, the sitting arrangement. We know that we can expect over 400 people to attend, which will include 238 plus minus 238 members plus guests, of course, because remember, this event is for the three arms of the state. So members of the judiciary will be here, members of the executive will be here, and obviously, as you would know, our presiding officer. So we're expecting over just close to 400 guests, but those will include members and guests. And for those members that will not be here physically, they will be part of the sitting, but as you know that it will take the form of hybrid.
Yeah, indeed. As we had the acting secretary to Parliament, Ms. Baby Gyao, she really did express the fact that Parliament has done significant improvements in ensuring that all the members of Parliament that are not able to come into the precinct of Parliament, that are not able to travel, all things are ready for them to function from home, alluding also agreeing to the fact that the constitutional mandate of both especially the National Assembly, which is mostly affected by the House, it does not get compromised in the process. She even alluded to the fact that the oversight programs of the portfolio committees, they are continuing, the programs are still carrying on, but also in support of that, we are here today as the testimony as well to say, actually, their responsibilities has not ended. It still continues. It's just now to say, how do we improve on already what we have in terms of the other platforms of communication that they can utilize.
I also, didn't foresee, I didn't see the fire holding the work of Parliament, because you remember that since March 2020, majority of the staff members have been working from home, and the business of Parliament has been continuing. Programs of Parliament going ahead, committees are meeting, public hearings conducted across the country, and today we are here for the State of the Nation address. Next week, Monday, Tuesday, we'll be here for the debate on the State of the Nation address, and the President will apply. And we are still the week after that, we're having the budget
also in the employment or access to procurement services that the president addressed last year to say 40% of the women actually need to have access to the procurement. So we will wait and see what developments or what improvement has been there from the State of the Nation address that is going to be delivered. But those are our thoughts, those are our assumptions to think what will be in there, but we can only know when the president delivers the address at 7 this evening.
Definitely, Sisvi. For those who are watching at home, you can follow these proceedings on our social media platforms, hashtag SONA2022 at Parliament of RSA. For now, let's take you to go and see the video on the role of the National Council of Provinces. And following that, we'll be talking to Advocate Phindela, the Secretary of the National Council of Provinces.
Parliament consists of two houses, namely the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces. The role of the National Council of Provinces. The NCOP is constitutionally mandated to ensure that provincial interests are taken into account in the national sphere of government. This is done through participation in the national legislative process and by providing a national forum for consideration of issues affecting provinces.
Let us remind ourselves of the words of President Nelson Mandela when he said, quote, "The NCOP is uniquely placed to reflect the diversity of our society and to synthesize the experience of those spheres of government charged with the great bulk of the task of implementing the country's national program of fundamental change," close quote.
The NCOP also plays a unique role in the promotion of the principles of cooperative government and intergovernmental relations. It ensures that the three spheres of government work together in performing their unique functions in terms of the Constitution, and that in doing so, they do not encroach in each other's areas of competence.
We believe that this is a very important house, the NCOP. We believe that we should continue to work together as provinces to raise issues that affect our respective provinces.
Out of the main functions of the NCOP is to make laws. In performing this legislative function, the NCOP may consider, pass, amend, propose amendments, or reject any legislation before it.
Members of the NCOP, in the context of the dedicated and committed collectives and a galaxy of leaders, we pledge to serve all our people. We will do so irrespective of class, color, gender, religion, environmental, or any other form of discrimination.
Parliament, following up on our commitments to the people, making your future work better.
Welcome back. You are watching Parliament TV. It is SONA Day, and we will continue bringing you informative and educational programming on all matters relating to the State of the Nation address. For the first time since the dawn of democracy in 1994, the State of the Nation address will be held outside the scenes of Parliament due to the devastating fire incident which gutted certain buildings of Parliament, including the National Assembly. To discuss the implications of hosting SONA outside the usual precinct of Parliament, I am now joined by the Secretary of the National Council of Provinces, Advocate Phindela. Advocate, good morning and welcome to Parliament TV.
Good morning, thank you very much, and good morning to the viewers at home.
Thank you, Advocate. Advocate, for the first time, as I've just indicated now, that it's the first time since the dawn of democracy that Parliament, the SONA is held outside the parliamentary precinct. What are the legal implications for doing this?
Well, the City Hall has been declared the parliamentary precinct. So one may say that it's an extension of the original precincts of Parliament. The legal implications being that, or the implications in general, being that whatever rules, whatever laws are applicable to Parliament, to the original precincts of Parliament, would be applicable here. The members would enjoy the same privileges that they enjoy in the original precincts of Parliament. The rules would be applicable, the joint rules, because we are having the joint sitting. The joint rules would be applicable to the joint sitting of the two houses of Parliament. And as I've indicated, the powers, privileges, and immunities of Parliament and Provincial Legislatures Act will also be applicable. So nothing really has changed except that the venue for the State of the Nation address has changed. So by extension, we are sitting in Parliament now.
All right, we're expecting over 300 members to be sitting here physically and attend and listening to the president. But we know that Parliament has more than has more members than that. So what then happens to those members who will not be here physically?
The combination of the membership of Parliament for the two houses is 490 plus 10 Salga representatives. So the National Council of Provinces has got 90 delegates and 10 representatives of organized local government, referred to as Salga. The National Assembly has got 400 members. So we will be having about 300 and something members, 360 something members, if not 370 something members physically in the House. And then we will have the remainder of that being virtually in the House. So I prefer to use that terminology because they are virtually in the House. They are not on the platform like we normally say that yes, a member is in the platform. They are virtually in the House, so they will be virtually in the House. So the House would extend to the virtual platform.
Now, considering that we are still on level 1 of COVID-19 and the restrictions still apply, can you take us through the sitting arrangements in the chamber?
Well, the City Hall, we have been informed, can take about 900 and something people in the normal course of events. But because of the COVID protocols, Parliament has opted to reduce that number so as to comply with those protocols. So we have arranged the sitting arrangement, the sitting in such a way that there is a seat in between members, as I've indicated, in order to observe the health protocol.
And there's only one agenda item, which is the address by the president on the State of the Nation. But in the past, we've seen members raising point of orders and sometimes wanting to add agenda items. How are you going to deal with that today?
We do have the rules. So the presiding officers will apply the rules. So in terms of the joint rules, members have the right to raise points of order. So the presiding officers will allow members to raise points of order, but what would not be allowed would be instances where members want to put questions, for instance, because today is not really question day. Today is the State of the Nation address to allow the president to address the nation. So if a member wants to put a question, for instance, there's an opportunity in each of the houses for question time to the president, to the deputy president, and to other members of the executive. So today we are just focused on the State of the Nation address, but of course, as I've indicated, members will have an opportunity to raise points of order.
Now, today, President will be delivering his address, and it's expected that next week, Monday and Tuesday, there will be a debate, which will then followed by replies by the President on Wednesday. Will those still be held here? How long are we having the City Hall as a precinct of Parliament?
The debate will also give members an opportunity to raise any matters that they would want to debate with the president. So if there's anything that they would want to debate with the president, they should it will not be allowed today. It would be allowed at the time of the debate. As we have indicated,
allocated on the 14th and the 15th. It will be the debate on the State of the Nation address. And on the 16th, the president will have an opportunity to reply to the debate. So we still have 3 more days to come. So SONA is not, or the State of the Nation address is not really an event. It's part of the parliamentary processes and proceedings. So it will be followed also by the State of the Nation address, the debate, and the reply thereto will be followed by budget, for instance. The budget speech would be to now translate into monetary terms what the president has said. And as you know, that will also be followed by the budget speeches in the National Assembly and the policy debates in the National Council of Provinces by different ministers to implement what the president has said in the State of the Nation address and what the Minister of Finance would have said insofar as the budget is concerned.
Lastly, Advocate Phindela, if you can just share your general feeling when you learned on the 2nd of January that Parliament was on fire.
Well, it was a roller coaster of emotions. To see the National Assembly building, or what we refer to as the new wing, burning or being gutted by fire was really painful. When we arrived here on the 2nd, we had an opportunity to meet as managers with the presiding officers, and at that time we thought that the fire was under control. But immediately when we left the meeting, there were some flare-ups of the fire. So in addition to what the painful experience that we witnessed on TV, we also had a experience of practically witnessing that painful moment when the fire was like taking the last gasp out of the National Assembly building. So it was really painful. It remains a painful memory. I think it will be etched in our memories for a very long time. It's going to be part of our history. We'll always refer to that painful moment.
Indeed, Advocate, just seeing it on TV, it was very painful for me as well. I can only imagine how it must have been for you if you were physically there when the fire flare up again. I want to say thank you very much for doing this interview with Parliament TV. Viewers at home, that was Advocate Phindela, the Secretary to the National Council of Provinces, talking to us about the rules that apply during the joint sitting of Parliament. Right now, let's go and see the role of committees on oversight.
Following up on our commitments to the people, making your future work better. Parliament TV, channel 408 on DSTV.
In Parliament's oversight and accountability model, it is stated that Parliament's strategic vision is to build an effective people's parliament that is responsive to the needs of the people, and that is driven by the ideal of realizing a better quality of life for all the people of South Africa. And its mission is to represent and act as a voice of the people in fulfilling Parliament's constitutional functions of passing laws and overseeing executive action. Based on Parliament's vision, it requires accountability, a way of ensuring it is properly managed and a means of guaranteeing that Parliament operates within its constitutional mandate. What is meant by the term oversight by Parliament?
Oversight by Parliament is a constitutional obligation that is there. And essentially what it means is that Parliament must exercise oversight over the executive. Meaning, Parliament must look at what the executive is doing. Are they doing it in line with the Constitution? Are they doing it in line with the budgets that are there? Are they spending the money according to the priorities that was identified by the government? And also, are they transparent and accountable in terms of what they are doing? Oversight further involves that members of parliament can ask questions to the executive. It also means that committees can at any stage call a member of the executive to come and explain a matter that is there in the public domain. If something is said about a certain minister, the committee has the right to call that minister to say, Minister, is this true? What is happening here? So oversight means that you monitor the executive action. Now, who's the executive? The executive is cabinet, including the president. Parliament must exercise oversight over the president, the deputy president, and all ministers that are there. So it is monitoring what they're supposed to do, if they are doing it, and how well they are doing it in implementing the executive priorities as articulated by the president after he has met the cabinet.
There are a few reasons why oversight is vitally important to the functions of organs of state. First, it monitors how the taxpayers' money is used, and oversight seeks to improve the efficiency, economy, and effectiveness of government operations. Next, oversight ensures that policies announced by government and authorized by Parliament are actually delivered. This function includes monitoring the achievement of goals set by legislation and the government's own programs. Another reason for oversight is the protection of the rights and liberties of citizens by detecting and preventing abuse of power, wasteful spending, as well as illegal and unconstitutional conduct on the part of the government and public agencies. Ultimately, oversight is exercised to improve the transparency of government operations and enhance public trust in the government.
Oversight is what will make members of executive and leadership of state-owned entities to come to account in the institution called Parliament. And that's what will also speed up service delivery. For an example, if they say in Malamulela, in Guyana, they have built a particular road or a bridge, they are presenting it in Parliament in a PowerPoint by a provincial government or a national department for that matter. But for members of Parliament, to look at the PowerPoint, it's always important for them to go to the ground so that they see whether what is on PowerPoint in terms of being beautiful and being this good bridge that is assisting ordinary people, when you get to the ground, is going to be as you have seen it on the PowerPoint that has been presented. So it's very important because it's assisting us to make people that are supposed to be accounting to account, and to make the people that we represent, as and when they have those challenges, to always make it a point that they get their assistance, because members of executive will be accounting in Parliament.
The Constitution of South Africa mandates legislative organs of state to scrutinize and oversee executive action, together with the implementation of laws, the application of the budget, and the strict observance of statutes and the Constitution. An important element of oversight is that it entails overseeing the effective management of government departments by individual members of cabinet in pursuit of improved service delivery for the achievement of a better quality of life for all citizens. The oversight cycle begins right at the beginning of the year, when the President delivers the State of the Nation address. The State of the Nation is a summary on the commitments the government is making to the people of South Africa. 2 weeks later, the Minister of Finance delivers the annual budget speech, which allocates funds to the commitments prioritized by the President in the State of the Nation address. Next, once the parliamentary process begins at the National Assembly and National Council of Provinces, there are budget vote debates where each member of the executive details how they plan to allocate and spend the budget allocated to them by the Minister of Finance. Members of Parliament follow this process and look at the implementation of the budget and initiatives in each department to ensure it is carried out. Part of the oversight process includes question sessions in Parliament to the President, the Deputy President, and the different ministers. Additionally, members of Parliament can step outside of Parliament and investigate the progress of projects set out by government departments. This can be done through oversight visits, taking Parliament to the people, or Local Government Week, amongst other programs. The Auditor General is also part of the oversight process, monitoring the expenditure of budget allocated to departments and projects. Parliament has the power under the law and the Constitution to summon anyone to appear before it to answer questions on the spending of public funds. Ministers and government officials are regularly called to appear before committees of Parliament on their work. Should the priorities of a project change and incur changes in the budget as well? For example, money allocated to a specific project is allocated to another where it is needed more urgently for social relief. The committees will follow those changes to ensure the funds are still accounted for and used for the intended purpose.
We have got what we call cooperative governance. In legislatures, in each and every legislature in South Africa, got portfolio committees. But having portfolio committees, it does necessarily mean that when Parliament want to address a particular issue in a province, they can't do that. They can do that anytime, any date, as long as the planning and coordination and everything is done according to book. But it's not done in a way that will destabilize and disorganize the planning of provinces. That is why even provinces, when we're planning as national parliament, will always extend the invitation to them so that they understand the program. Many times in the past, we have seen the different municipalities being invited to come and account in Parliament because there are some issues that are of challenge and want to see what's happening, including different departments. They are called to come, and like now the Section 100 in Northwest, there's a legislature that is there, but the Constitution is very clear about what can be done by legislature. It's also very clear what can be done by a national parliament, and that will never be compromised. Everything that we do, we derive it from our own Constitution that is guiding us as members of Parliament.
Monitoring and evaluating the oversight process is the responsibility of each portfolio committee. And that's why continuity in these portfolio committees are so important. Because if you constantly change members in portfolio committees, it will mean that they don't really know without having been informed or reading what has happened as to what is going to take place. So that is crucial for the committee to follow whatever statement, commitment, or answer a minister says. Because it's the only way in which you can keep them accountable, based on what they have said and based on what they are doing.
Each of the two houses of Parliament, the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces, establish parliamentary committees to facilitate oversight and monitor the government in terms of the Constitution. These committees are the engine rooms of Parliament's oversight and legislative work. Parliamentary committees scrutinize legislation, oversee government action, and interact with the public. To exercise oversight, parliamentary committees first consider the appropriate means for conducting oversight to cover all organs of state. The committee would either request a briefing from the organ of state or visit the organ of state for fact-finding, depending on the purpose of the oversight. The work of oversight committees can include study visits, involve physical inspections, conversing with community members and stakeholders, assessing the impact of delivery, and developing reports for adoption by committees that contain recommendations for the houses to consider. Committees often obtain first-hand knowledge from people engaged in the direct implementation of specific programs or who are directly responsible for service delivery. To evaluate the work of government from a broader perspective, committees may invite experts from outside government to provide background knowledge and analysis on relevant issues. Once the committee has gathered all the information it requires as part of its oversight process, it must report back to the respective House on matters referred to for consideration. In its report, the committee will state specific recommendations for the matter it has investigated. When a committee reports to the House for a formal consideration and the House adopts the committee report, it gives the recommendations the force of a formal House resolution pursuant to its constitutional function of conducting oversight. The House then also monitors executive compliance with these recommendations. Of course, matters cannot be ongoing indefinitely. When a department presents their annual performance plan, it has clear timelines. When Parliament or a committee adopts its own plan, it will have clear timeframes and will align with the relevant department's timeline. By following these timelines, oversight by the committees can see when projects or spending have gone off course and call the relevant member of the executive to discuss why the project and budget has not met a specific target and what plans are set forth to address the issue. Oversight by committees sets out timelines to hold departments to account and ensure that the South African people get the service delivery they expect and rightly deserve from government.
It doesn't matter whether we come from, say, same party. We have got different responsibilities. You are implementing, I am doing oversight out of what you said you'll be implementing. And if you said you will be dealing with the Hollywood vacancy rate in your department, and we gave you clear recommendations that next month when we meet on this particular date, we don't want another acting arrangement. We want to see a department with people that are employed. And when we give you time frame, we're aware about the advert, the screening, the interviews. We are very realistic. And we have done our research as an institution that is doing oversight. But if you come back after 6 months, they are still telling us the old story. That is why sometimes it will be headline news and say members of a committee were not satisfied even about the explanation. Sometimes, many a times, of course, you won't even understand if you are not told that these members, they will speak one language when there are some challenges, condemning what is wrong and criticizing, of course, in a very fair way.
We just had the Secretary of the National Council of Provinces who gave us an overview of what the joint rules are going to be relevant to the State of the Nation Address joint sitting that is going to take place this evening. Now I am joined by the Deputy Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Umama Sylvia Lucas. He is the Deputy to the Chairperson, Dada Amos Masondo, within the NCOP. Mama, welcome to the program this morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much. And also good morning to the viewers of our beloved parliamentary channel, isn't it?
Quite a lovely weather outside for a change. It's always been sunny when we have the State of the Nation address, and today it's quite cool. Deputy Chairperson, when the President announced the presidential pro-government's program of action for 2021, can you kindly inform us as viewers and also everybody who's watching, what were the key policy focus areas for the NCOP?
For the NCOP, first and foremost, I must say, it was important for us to make sure that provinces align themselves with the policy positions that is clearly set out. Because I've said it before in an interview that I have with you, is that the NCOP is actually giving all the three spheres of government a very good platform to deliberate on policy positions, to make sure that we enhance the oversight over the executive at all the different levels, but also that we try to make sure that we, how do I put it, support the whole idea of the district development model that is actually geared at bringing together all the different spheres of government at one level to make sure that there is coordinated delivery on the priorities that is being put. I want to put it first and foremost, because if you go out on our oversight, you find usually that there is a lot of queries or complaints about the fact that there is unequal kind of delivery. I know I'm not responding directly to your question, but I'm coming to the question. I'm speaking about what we are experiencing, and we need to look into solutions, because we've got very good policies, we've got very good positions as to what actually will make us to work. But I think our biggest problem, it's not implementation, it's coordination. And why am I saying coordination? Because you've got a budget at the local level for roads, say for streets and internal roads or streets. You've got a budget at the district level for access roads. You've got a budget at provincial level for roads and at national level. But just imagine if that budget was one collective budget that address from inner roads and then to access roads and then to provincial roads and to national roads. You have a program that is actually connected to ensure that you have implementation. That brings me to what was the policy positions that we mostly as the NCOP want to address. Poverty still remains first and foremost an issue for the country, for people all over. It remains an issue. During the COVID-19 process, the response became a very strong position of the government. And what we then as NCOP did, we focused on making sure that we call all the different ministers to the NCOP, first and foremost, to give us information about what is the program of action to respond to the pandemic. Secondly, what is the results that they are getting? And that is one other issue that I could possibly, I know I sound to be all over the show. One other issue that I could possibly raise is that when I joined the NCOP, I found that there is a project of adapting the rules to the current situation, the rules of the NCOP. It was quite a stagnant program at that stage, and I got the responsibility to make sure that I convene the subcommittee to make sure that we actually adapt or change the rules of the NCOP to adapt to the present time circumstances. So we as the NCOP, we brought in, besides the sectoral parliaments, which we brought to the fore strongly, or the sectoral work that we brought to the fore strongly, but we also started the program of ministerial briefings. Now the program of ministerial briefings became so prominent, particularly during the lockdown period in the COVID situation, because we could now, for instance, on education, get information directly to everyone at the same time by calling the responsible ministers. On poverty, we could call social development, we could call treasury, and we could also call health, because there is areas, and agriculture, because there is areas where all of those can begin to respond. Because remember, the COVID-19 pandemic actually deepened the crisis of poverty and unemployment within the country because of the fact that people lost their jobs, number one. There was a stage where there was a total lockdown, so people could not earn, particularly people like temporary workers and also seasonal workers. Although there was this kind of programs where government wanted to actually compensate for their things. It was not necessarily in the beginning working so seamlessly. So there was a lot of backlash to the people of the country with regards to that specific issues. So what we also realize is the NCOP, the leadership of the NCOP, is that in the absence of communication, people lose hope. So we had to bring in these different ministries to make sure that people get the correct information and that there is communication on a level where it is from the NCOP, where people can see, indeed, we are bringing together the national sphere of government, the provinces as well as this organized local government. And everyone could really be beyond the first engagement. When we called them back, they could come with programs that they said, at this level, we got together, and that is how we are implementing, particularly on issues of vaccination. You know that there is still that kind of resistance, but we also wanted to make sure that people do get correct information in the light of the onslaught of fake information that is out there in the public domain. So,
Deputy Chair, before we lose this particular question, I just want to go back to the point that you just made about the sectoral parliaments. You alluded to the fact that it is during the oversight processes, you experience a lot of backlash because there has been no communication. And one of the sectoral programs of the NCOP, Taking Parliament to the People, unfortunately due to COVID, was put on hold on 2020 in March, just before the feedback was given to the citizens of Johannesburg or Gauteng. Do you foresee activation of this program, because it is one of the programs that actually gives feedback to the citizens and follow up on issues of the communities? Do we see activation of that program in 2022?
Yeah, let me just go a few steps back. You know that we were right in Gauteng when the total lockdown was called. But what I should say is that, but particularly with regards to the provincial week, we still continued, albeit in a hybrid fashion, we still continue it. And I think it is giving us that assurance that we can deliberately also start to bring back our Taking Parliament to the People. Because like you said, it is a very important program to make sure that, you know, I was doing an interview on a radio talk show during the build up to SONA, and one of the things that the journalist asked me is that, do I think, and she put it like, the ANC government is doing enough to engage the people? So, you know, there is government and there is parliament. You understand? We know that there is the three arms of state. People just see one. And I said to them, I am fortunate that I am coming to this interview today, because just last week, committees of the National Assembly was all over South Africa. All over South Africa for the week of committees. I know what people want is that Imbizo kind of engagement, like the one of Taking Parliament to People, where we are in a specific province for the whole week, and at the end of the week, we will bring the president to that specific province to respond to the issues that we have actually garnered throughout the week that we were meeting with different stakeholders or different communities in the specific province. So by all means, as soon as possible, we need to bring back that kind of programs, because it's counterproductive. It's counterproductive to not inform your people, because if you are not giving people the correct information, the prophets of doom will deliberately defocus communities, and that is where we have issues of community unrest and all of that kind of things. It is very important, and I want to stress it, it is very important that we must uphold the communication with our communities and to make them understand programs like taking Parliament to the people is not a cosmetic exercise. It is something that is being done to make sure that the elected representatives remain in touch with those that have elected them into their positions.
And towards the end of the year or in the middle of the year, ma'am, you went on a woman's charter
Really?
where you did it virtually with the women of all the provinces. How did that program go? Were there any challenges? Were there any benefits? Because I believe in August 2021, you actually adopted it as an accelerated development plan for the women.
I don't know how to put it, but that program of Women's Charter Review literally gave women a voice, literally gave women a platform to raise very important issues, because we didn't only stop at engaging the women alone. We also, in response to the issues that they raise, brought, for instance, the Law Reform Commission. We brought the Finance and Fiscal Commission. We brought Stats SA. We brought the Gender Commission. And we went to the extent that we actually debated within the Women's Parliament with other parties. And there is a lot of support from all the political parties for that process that unfolded. But post that, just a small thing that happened. Myself and my office, we had a meeting with the Ministry of Women. It's already some of the issues, particularly around the economic issues, were some of the issues that they used as reference. So already it became a very important reference document to make sure that they address some of the issues. For instance, issues of women's budget. I don't know if you can hear it's a buzzword all over, gender budgeting. It's a buzzword all over. But it is of the issues that transpired from our consultative process. And it was for 18 months that we were doing that program. And I can tell you, there are many women out there that came just to say one thing, said that the issue of women, when nothing else was on the agenda, the NCOP and other women's formations ensure that our issues came to the fore. And it is so important, particularly in the light of the scourge of gender-based violence and femicide. And also the issue that now at last President have signed for the strengthening of that legislation. And people feel it is through that public consultation process that they got a better understanding, even as government, of really what is the issues that women are suffering. But also the Gender Commission feel that they got a platform to actually show to people what they are, what particularly as an organization that's supposed to be strengthening the constitution or supporting the democracy and the constitution, they got an opportunity to really show what is happening out there to our women, particularly LGBTIQA and our children, because sometimes if mothers are suffering, children are suffering. So that process was particularly enriching the debate around the issues of women. So for now, we are very satisfied where we are at a point where we have a very good reference document and a very good document that can actually inform the program of action around the issues of women.
You touch on the Women's Charter and what the report that has been developed and that is available to everybody. In this instance, because Parliament was key in driving this development of this program, how will then Parliament ensure that the provisions within the Women's Charter are effectively monitored to ensure its implementation?
First of all, we need to finalize the official tabling of that document in Parliament so that it can become in both houses, so that it can be written into the record and it can become an official document against which we can hold the executive accountable. And like I've said already, I was invited to a seminar, a women's seminar, and it was about the economy and about women in the economy. But in the economy in general, but also focusing on women in the economy. And I took the chapter, I think it's chapter 4, I'm not 100% sure, but I took that chapter and I presented it to that forum. And we got so much positive feedback. And there was one body that actually said to me, if we allow, they are going to take that chapter and they are going to develop it further to break it down so that they can use it in the context where they are. And I said to them, as soon as this is being tabled in Parliament, it is totally a public document. It is not our document. Parliament is the driver, but it is totally a public document. And if it can enhance at any level the programs that will actually build up to the development of women, then we have achieved what we want to achieve as Parliament.
Deputy Chairperson, sometime last week, the Department of Women and Children, Persons with Disabilities had a webinar on the issue of gender-based budget.
Gender budget.
Yes, yeah. So within that webinar, we had the two countries that were guests. It was Ghana and it was Rwanda as well. So who were sharing their experiences as to how they came about to arrange to make sure that the issue of gender-based budget actually becomes a living document. Where do you foresee us as South Africa having such a document?
Let me start by saying this. I had a discussion with Mama Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma about this specific issue and about gender budgeting and gender planning. And we realize that in many instances, we are looking for the abstract and leaving the practical. Because if you start saying you are doing gender budgeting, if you build a house, for instance, and in that house, there are boys and girls, how do you make sure that that house responds particularly to the women? How do you make sure that, for instance, let me put it like that, you will still find that in some of the, say in the villages, I'm working mostly in the villages, in some of the villages, you still find that toilets are outside, people must walk and go fetch water, and it is mostly the women. Is it not part of gender issues? Because if you want to look to the safety of that women and the girl children, you need to make sure in your planning, you build a total house with inside sanitation, with water inside the house. That will make sure that you also address other societal issues, like the safety of these girl children that must sometimes walk far to get water, and how many girl children have been raped, have been killed, just by going out to fetch water, to fetch wood, because there is no electricity, there is no energy. Let me say there is no energy, and there is not water nearby. And that is the kind of things that is addressing gender issues. And have we ever thought like that? Have we ever thought like that? So what I'm saying, gender budgeting is not an abstract issue. It is an issue that you must make it a living kind of prerogative. You must make it, if you develop a gender budget, that document must be responsive, it must be living, it must really, really address the issues that will make the life better for both sexes. You understand where I'm coming from. So my point of view is that as long as we see gender budgeting as an abstract theory, we will not achieve what we want to achieve. But I should say, in our discussions with the Ministry of Women, there is really a kind of understanding or comprehension, let me put it like that, of what should actually be addressed to ensure that if we say gender budgeting is not only about equal pay, because we mostly make it about equal pay for men and women for the same work, same qualifications, same whatever. But it's not, I know you want to ask something.
Yes, yes.
So,
It's because, Deputy Chairperson, I just want to find out, you have just alluded to the issues that are problem in terms of the budgeting, like the issues of housing. Then how does the NCOP foresee itself in making sure that the gender budgeting actually addresses the needs? Are we going to get to the civil organizations, community structures starting to be partners with the NCOP or Parliament in order to make sure that the communities speak exactly to their needs and we avoid the issue of making the gender budgeting an abstract issue?
During our consultation process, that's why I mentioned the issue of the Finance and Fiscal Commission. In fact, the Finance and Fiscal Commission, with our support, went out and identified, and that is what we actually proposed. They identify a pilot group of municipalities where they want to implement that kind of gender budgeting. And now when we proceed with our program, we will get the feedback, we will get the stats, we will get the understanding whether in the process that was followed, at least at the local level, where service delivery is taking place proper, at least at that level, whether they could, because the other side of the issue was that municipalities and even ourselves, we've been complaining about the fact that we don't have enough budget, because initially anything will require more fiscal input. But in the end, as soon as we have mainstream that, you will find that it doesn't necessarily cost more. We just need to do it smarter. And that is the issue, that there is a pilot from the side of the FFC that we are supporting, and we will get that feedback. And even the Ministry of Women is, because we actually informed them about the FFC process and they were aware of it. So that is why we want them to work together, so that we as NCOP, although we will be facilitating, but we will also be able to play our oversight role in the process. Because if we do things ourselves, who is going to do oversight over who? And that is why we actually will be bringing the FFC back. We will bring the Gender Commission, the Commission on Gender Equality. We will bring them back because they have been supporting us in that, and they also have very good documents on issues around gender budgeting. Because in the end, it is not as if we need to reinvent the wheel. There have been programs going on, and like you said, we need to make sure that we work together with civil society to achieve this equality that we are striving for.
We are moving now into, we are already in the halfway mark of the 6th Parliament. What institutional shifts can we expect the NCOP to garner in order to make sure there is developmental deliverables, particularly for the women and the youth? I know we've touched a lot on the women. Maybe if there are some points that the Deputy Chair has missed or just remembered now, please you can share them. But on the youth now.
You know, young people of South Africa say we are not saying anything about them. But I believe young people is the future. Now, why am I saying that? I am having a concern that youth unemployment is just rising on a daily basis. And the one thing that I have also noticed in going around in the country is that many of our young people is taking up the opportunity to go into tertiary studies and to make sure that they equip themselves. The one thing that we as South Africa, and I think that is where the oversight body like the NCOP or Parliament for that matter can come in. We as South Africa, in terms of our planning, we don't plan for the output or the outcomes or what will you a strategy for people to graduate out of a specific program. Say for instance, we have the CWP. We have leave the CWP because I've noticed when I go around CWP, it's mostly the old people that feel they are at home. They are continuing with the CWP, but EPWP. If you implement the programs the way it was envisaged, you need to have a exit strategy. But also, even if the young people go into tertiary, we will have to begin to influence the outcome of that specific program or that specific project, because we cannot have the majority of children going into HR, and HR is becoming extinct. Whilst we have so many opportunities for engineers, and so I was saying to one person just 3 days ago, I am very impressed with what Kumba is doing in the Northern Cape, particularly in Kathu. All the young people that are fitters and turners, welders, you mentioned it. You find the biggest concentration of welders and all of that in Kumba and Kulumela mines. And it is very young people. So which means the training program that they do, they've got an exit strategy for that young people. So we are putting students in the mill. And what gets out on the other side is an unemployed young graduate. So when will we really focus and apply our minds to make sure that young people take up studies that will eventually lead to entrepreneurs, that will be doing things for themselves? Engineers in particular, there is always a need for engineers. The whole of South Africa is flooding. Why are South Africa flooding? Because drainage systems are not, I mean, last week in Centurion, there was the area was flooded, and I asked specifically, but how does it happen that this area is flooding? And people said it's a drainage system. And the engineers went and they said, 2 or 3 engineers that I spoke to said, no, we are on it. We are sitting now. I said, do it for the rest of South Africa, because wherever there is in municipal areas where there is flooding, and so when I mean localized flooding, it is because the drainage system is not working. So don't we have a need for engineers to address that kind of problem? What I'm saying is we are seeing this high level of unemployment because we are not diversified enough in terms of the kind of training and capacity building that we are having in this province, in this country.
Then, Deputy Chair, that brings me now to the oversight. Parliament is mandated to do that constitutional mandate to do oversight within the provinces, while the National Assembly is doing it on the national government. So coming back to the NCOP, with the issues that you have alluded to, the issues of our education not having an exit strategy, and the issue of drains, do you see the NCOP having a different approach as to how what it conducts when it goes on oversight? What are the really critical issues when it goes on oversight, so that these issues that you have alluded to, they get addressed?
The nice part of it is that particularly when we go on provincial week, leave the committees, because the committees also focus on specific issues. But before we go out there, we sit down as the NCOP and we identify the areas that need us to do oversight on. And what is actually now enhancing our oversight is this ministerial, what they call ministerial briefings, because they brief us about issues, we go out there, we observe the issues, we advise also municipalities and so on, and we come back and we call the very same ministers for ministerial briefings, and that is the issues that we want them to respond to. So far, there are some of the ministers said, after we were here at the NCOP and after the issues you raised, we went back and we found indeed this is the thing. What we are planning to do, and that is something that is also becoming a buzzword. So our oversight focus will now be on the district development model, because they are saying what we are planning to do is through the district development model, have a comprehensive approach to these issues that are being raised by you. So as we move on, we really need to adapt to the circumstances. And that is why we are having the ministerial briefings. And also it is actually enhancing our oversight because the departments come to committees and committees have got that limited scope or that limited time that we are trying to address the issue. But I must say that some of the committees are reporting that after having that kind of ministerial briefing where you get all the information more, it is more fulfilling to go out there and to make sure there is an oversight and it can be responded to. I was in Guyana, for instance, and the people of Guyana were saying, we only have one access road to this area, and particularly at certain times, say over the festive season, and so it becomes completely congested, and it is a problem. What will happen if that bridge over the river can collapse one day? You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I understand.
So that specific way of engaging with the people give you that kind of information that you can bring to the fore and say, for instance, someone reported there was a bridge that was built, state-of-the-art bridge. No road that is taking people to that bridge. How do you build a bridge without a road? You understand what I'm saying? So oversight remains key and very important. Otherwise, you will never know about the anomalies that is existing and that need to be addressed by departments.
So ma'am, you have just mentioned why it is critical to do the oversight.
For sure.
Listening to you, naming all these issues, a bridge being built and there is no road leading to that bridge, who was supposed to do the oversight in this instance?
The issue is that, like what I'm saying, if we don't go to the areas, we won't be able to find such, because those that are supposed to be doing the oversight, say within the provinces and so on, sometimes that is why when I was a premier in a province, I had a serious issue with the national department coming in and decide that they know what the province needs. I had a serious issue with it because that is where things fall through the cracks. I don't know, I can't say who was responsible for that specific issue, but what I am saying, communication between the different spheres of government is very important, because that is how we will make sure that we respond to the specific needs of communities and not come and build a bridge where people really do need a bridge, but they need a road more and they need water infrastructure more.
Yes, ma'am. Having listened to that, we know that the census is happening this year. Stats SA will be going around the country just to get an understanding as how many people actually live in South Africa. What will be the role of the NCOP, or what is the role of the NCOP when it comes to Stats SA?
You know, let me say, Stats SA, I have particularly observed it during our process of the Women's Charter. They have got such sophisticated systems of making sure that they have the necessary information around what is going on in the country. So for us, it is also very important. We are now starting, because it is the first census in our time, we are now starting the operations of Parliament. I didn't attend the seminar, workshop, over ministerial briefing, I will call it like that, of the NCOP last week. So I can't say whether the issue of census was discussed there. But I am sure that we are going to follow up on that, because we will have to ask the minister in the presidency to come to the NCOP to brief us on what transpired in the process of the census, because we have been briefed before that there will be a census. But now, like I said, this ministerial briefings is giving us so much opportunity to get more information and to do better oversight. So that is why now what will happen, what will have to happen, is that the NCOP will have to call the minister in the presidency to brief us on the whole issues around census. But I must say, Stats SA is one of the better performing entities. And there is really, I am absolutely sure if we can follow the recommendations of the Stats SA, we will be able to implement many things that sometimes falling through the crack.
Coming back to the event of today, the President will be delivering the State of the Nation address in 2022. What are your expectations?
You don't want me to say what is my expectation. I think not my expectation. I don't have any expectations. I just expect that the President should respond to the current burning issues that is there in the country. For instance, we've been deployed to have radio engagements, and it was mostly talk shows and so. There are people that want to know about the July lootings. What happened and what is the government going to do about that thing? There are mostly people want to know on the issues of unemployment, what is going to happen. And then also on COVID-19, not only the regulations, but all the different issues around like the issues of people getting grants, and also how we are planning to respond to make sure that the impact is really being lessened in the end. I am saying what people want to hear. And then also the students on issues of NSFAS, on issues of schooling, and that is what people want to hear. I think people are now, because of the fact that there was like a decrease of proper communication during this lockdown period, people are now kind of disillusioned. They are, what will we say? They are just disillusioned. They are like despondent. So they really want the State of the Nation address to give them hope. They want it to be a message of hope. And I believe with everything that has happened and all the consultation that the presidency and others have done, I'm sure the president will be able to respond to us. One thing that people will also want to know is about all the fires that is going around
Indeed.
the country. Because, I mean, I should tell you that after the fire in Parliament, we've been in many areas and wherever we went, and I should say that I should give that to South Africans. There was no one that I met that was negative about this. It was a very painful issue for everyone that we met, to the extent that some people even sympathized with us, realizing the magnitude of what happened when that fire ravaged Parliament. So what I'm saying, I still have a lot of hope and confidence that the Mandela Project have not failed. It's just that we mostly see the negative, but there are much more positive in South Africa than the negative.
Besides the normal programs of the NCOP, what can you say the viewers at home and the citizens can expect from the NCOP moving forward 2022 to 2023?
We are planning so many things. But you know, there is an old lady that they have a saying that stays near me, and she says in Afrikaans, "Die mens beplan die weg, maar God bestuur die weg." She liked to say that. So it's basically, you've got many plans, but it's in the universe whether your plans will become a reality. I'm just mentioning it because you know why I'm saying that. By now, we should have actually begin to plan what to do. But the fire shift our focus a gear. And that is the thing why I'm saying. But we are planning to finalize the tabling of the Women's Charter. And we are also planning to make sure that we bring back the programs of taking Parliament to the people and all of that. But we're also planning, as NCOP, we want Parliament to have a kind of a conference. I don't know how I must put it. Possibly let me not say too much about that. But we really want to make sure that we enhance this kind of work, particularly at the sectoral level that we are doing, and bringing in more voices, bringing in a better understanding of what the work of Parliament is about. You know for a fact that when we go out, people attack us about issues of government. They never really understand that we have got an oversight responsibility. And with the people of South Africa, we need to hold the executive accountable. So we still really plan to be in the face of people so that they can see Parliament has got two houses, that is the National Assembly and the NCOP. And it's not only about the distractions or the disruptions that are taking place in the National Assembly, it's also about the quality of oversight that we can bring about as the NCOP.
Deputy Chair, thank you so much for your time, and thank you also for your responses. Viewers at home, you have definitely heard what are the plans of the NCOP going forward into 2022 as well as into 2023. Ma'am, thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful evening tonight.
Thank you very much. I also hope so, and thank you very much for always having us as the NCOP. It is important that people must understand Parliament has got two houses, and in both the houses, we are giving our all to make sure that we have a proper oversight. And thank you very much. Also, blessed day for all of you.
Viewers, as we said, we are coming live from the City Hall. This is in getting ready for the State of the Nation address that the President is going to deliver tonight at 7 p.m. Please do stay tuned.
So there's a lot of issues in South Africa, as many South Africans face, such as youth unemployment. Unemployment is a huge issue in South Africa, and it has left many gaps locked for young people. Many young people sit at home and think, what will they be doing the next day? Where will they be getting money to pay bills, and how will they be able to take care of their relatives? And youth unemployment leads them to making wrong decisions and leads them to crime. So that's why I want Mr. President to speak about this when he's addressing the nation on Thursday, because it is definitely a huge issue in South Africa. And that's why I want Mr. President to speak about youth unemployment. Thank you.
I would like to emphasize the fact that he should really implement the part of job opportunities for South Africa, because job opportunities in South Africa is really low, and the COVID-19 pandemic has made it even worse. People who had jobs are now jobless and are struggling to support their families. This also affects young graduates because they too cannot find jobs. So, yeah, that would be what I would like to say to the President.
The State of the Nation address will be held on Thursday, 10 February, followed by 2 days of debate on 14 and 15 February 2022. The State of the Nation address, commonly referred to as SONA, is one of the most important annual events in the parliamentary calendar. It is an integral part of Parliament's oversight function over the executive. Watch the address live across Parliament's platforms at 7 p.m. Follow Parliament on social media and join the conversation using hashtag SONA2022. Parliament, following up on our commitments to the people, making your future work better.
So there's a lot of issues in South Africa, as many South Africans face, such as youth unemployment. Unemployment is a huge issue in South Africa, and it has left many gaps locked for young people. Many young people sit at home and think, what will they be doing the next day? Where will they be getting money to pay bills, and how will they be able to take care of their relatives? And youth unemployment leads them to making wrong decisions and leads them to crime. So that's why I want Mr. President to speak about this when he's addressing the nation on Thursday, because it is definitely a huge issue in South Africa. And that's why I want Mr. President to speak about youth unemployment. Thank you.
Job opportunities in South Africa is really low, and the COVID-19 pandemic has made it even worse. People who had jobs are now jobless and are struggling to support their families. This also affects young graduates because they too cannot find jobs. So, yeah, that would be what I would like to say to the President.
This book, our constitution, protects our society and empowers us to govern. The pot here leaves are us, the people, who freely elect our voices in Parliament. The drum calls the people of Parliament, through whom we govern together. And the sun is our country, healing our past, improving our lives, and energizing our potential. Together, our constitution, our people, our parliament, and our country are building our great South African nation. Parliament TV, channel 408 on DSTV.
Welcome back. You are watching Parliament's coverage of the State of the Nation Address 2022. So, citizens of South Africa, we just had the Deputy Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces. So we are back in the City Hall. So please note that we are also streaming live on Parliament's YouTube channel called Parliament of the Republic of South Africa. You can also join the conversation on social media platforms using today's official hashtag SONA2022, and interact with our broadcast using hashtag ParliLive. You can also follow Parliament across all social platforms, media platforms as follows. Follow Parliament on Twitter, Facebook, on IG, that's Instagram. Our handle is @Parliament of RSA. To continue with our conversation as we build to the President's State of the Nation address, we are going to be just finding out, how are you finding today, colleagues?
Sister Larry, since you just gave away our social media platforms, I have a few tweets that I have received here. The first one being from Takalani Netshifefe. There should be a way on how unemployment can be solved, how they will revive the economy, and how and when the idea of smart cities can be implemented. Smart cities can be the best development to happen in South Africa, since the old ones are decaying and need renovation. The second one comes from Tsepo Marumule and reads as follows: less new, more improving what is already in place, less catchphrases and slogan, and more clearly defined actions with timelines and accountability. The next one is from Mrs. Norma. I honestly don't know how I feel about SONA 2022. I feel like we should first do a performance appraisal of SONA 2021. And the last one being from Professor Tulima Donsela and reads as follows. Lyo 2 once said, if you want prosperity for a new year, grow crops. If you want prosperity for a decade, grow trees. But if you want prosperity for 100 years, grow people. A debt incurred through strategic investment is better than the austerity that keeps the nation stuck. And Sibu, those are some of the views that you are getting from Twitter. There's quite a lot that's coming through, and we will be reading them throughout the day.
Absolutely, and that's actually very, very interesting, Thembinkosi, because if we have to just reflect on the current unemployment rate in the country, South Africa's unemployment rate is currently the highest in the world. And we obviously have to look at that within the context of the COVID-19 pandemic. We know that a lot of people have lost jobs and a lot of businesses have also closed down. So one of the key priorities, as we know, and also as coming from the nation and from the tweet that you just read, people are looking for not only hope, but real tangible opportunities. And also on the issue of assessment, I think it's also important just to let our viewers know that a little bit later this afternoon, we will be having a conversation with Professor Muller from the HSRC, as well as Dr. Jantjies from Parliament's Budget Office, to unpack the progress that has been made since the President's last State of the Nation address. But in a nutshell, we know that there's a lot of socioeconomic challenges. Poverty has deepened. We know that women and youth have been disproportionately impacted upon by the COVID-19 pandemic. So that is at the top of the agenda. But in a nutshell, that is what people want to hear. They want to hear from the President what are the interventions that government will be putting in place to ensure that these critical issues, because these are our day-to-day issues, these bread and butter issues. It's about quality of life. That's some of the things that we can expect the President to be responding to a little bit later in his State of the Nation address.
That is so true, Sibulelo, because as I was listening to the deputy chairperson, she highlighted a critical point on the issues that she has been observing on her travels during oversight. And she left us with a point to say that the quality of oversight needs to change. We need to move from just oversight, but when members of parliament go on oversight, it needs to be a quality oversight to avoid the issues of having bridges built, because those are millions of billions of rands, but there is no road that is taking people to the bridge. And also bringing the educational aspect to it, to say children are going to school, people are joining particular programs, but what is the exit strategy? Do you want to build the people, as Thuli Madonsela has indicated, or are you building the people, or are you just doing it for the namesake? So a lot of things need to have an impact. They need to have an exit strategy at the end of the day. Otherwise, we're going to have a population that is unemployed and resulting to other unnecessary activities that also dampen on the budget of the country.
Doesn't that also speak to the importance of impact assessment within the broader state machinery? From an oversight perspective, obviously we know that Parliament is there to oversee the work of the executive to make sure that policy priorities are being implemented, budgeted for, with clear timelines. Now, when the Deputy Chairperson talks about impact and being able to measure where we were, have we made progress from the last State of the Nation address as compared to where we are right now? Obviously, the President will be announcing government's program of action for the year ahead, but we need to be able to take stock, and Parliament is that key institution that is there, one of the three arms of state, to ensure that it exercises that very critical oversight role to ensure that when the executive makes undertakings, that those undertakings are not only budgeted for, obviously through the budget process of Parliament, but also that they are implemented accordingly and that they have the desired impact in the lives of ordinary South Africans.
There's a lot of expectation to tonight's event as South Africans await the President to deliver the State of the Nation address. But for now, let's take a break as we will be speaking to the Deputy Speaker, Mr. Letšisa Tsinoli, after this.
The President has called a joint sitting of the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces in terms of Section 42(5) of the Constitution, read with Joint Rule 7 of the Joint Rules of Parliament, to deliver the State of the Nation address on Thursday, 10 February 2022. Since it is a joint sitting of the two houses of Parliament, the Speaker of the National Assembly and the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces host the event, which is attended by the three arms of the state. Watch the address live across Parliament's platforms at 7 p.m. Follow Parliament on social media and join the conversation using #SONA2022. Parliament, following up on our commitments to the